Welcome, welcome, welcome to all my lovely Dynasty degenerates out there. This is Dynasty 365, and we're coming at you with another installment for your fantasy football obsessions. I'm your host, Chris Burns, and tonight we will discuss the Dynasty targets and sleepers that you need on your squads. As always, I have my partner in crime, Rich, but we didn't want to leave it just up to us, So we added the real deal. Tonight, we have a special guest, Bob Harris, who is ensured to make sure you guys are prepared. Hey, Rich, if you could do me a favor, would you pretend like an Olympic archer and hit the bullseye on that intro button, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hello, hello, hello to everybody who is tuned in and watching us. Rich, we're glad to have you tonight. And everybody, it's going to be a really good show. We're going to be talking about what you're really caring about right now as we ramp up to real football. And tonight, as I said, we have a special one with us tonight. So we're just going to head and we're going to tell you about him a little bit. So tonight, our guest needs no introduction. But since it's written down, I'm going to give you one anyway. He is a staple in the industry. You can find him at FootballGuys. You can find him on SiriusXM Radio, where he shares unparalleled expertise, equips you with all the tools to winning fantasy. A true pioneer in the game, and honestly, one of the best people you will ever meet in this business. You know what? Chris Morris actually wears Bob Harris outfit. Join me, everybody, as we welcome the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Bob Harris. Find him on Twitter at FootballGuys. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm fantastic. That's the best intro of the year. There's not even a close second.
That's right.
But good. So we are getting so close to real football. Like, are you excited? Are you looking forward to the Hall of Fame game this weekend?
No, I hate the Hall of Fame game. It's a waste of my time. No, like it's football. It will obviously be on. I'll be doing my radio show while I have one eye on it. Nobody's playing, and I don't want anyone to play. Bubble wrap everybody until it matters. I mean, I'll take a little look at week 3. I mean, I think, we're at that point of the year where we become pretty satisfied with the news notes and tidbits, scraps, and more we get from training camp. I mean, the beat writers have learned what we desire, and they hand it over just like a fire hose hands over water. I mean, it's a continuous fee. So I like seeing all of it. I do like seeing people on the field a little bit. I want to get a little taste of what things look like, new coaching staffs, how they approach the game and things like that. But for the most part, I want a lot of bubble wrap this time of year.
I agree with that. Rich, my partner in crime, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here. Excited to have Bob here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're
like old hat. We hung out last night for an hour or so, right? So thanks to Rachel, it was a great hang there. So yeah, getting ready to go to the expo. I'm sure I'll see everybody there.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I was just telling Rich before we came on air that I think I have to go because my wife, she kind of like beat me up a little bit and told me that I needed to go because I wasn't going to go. So I think I kind of have to because I can't stay in the house now.
Damn right.
That's a good thing. But all right. So welcome to everybody who is watching us on YouTube and to everybody who's listening to us via podcast. Tonight is going to be a great show. So thanks for hanging out with us. Remember to post your comments, your questions, or whatever you might have in the chat, or you can even tweet us and we'll try to get to those as quickly as we can for you. Without further ado, we'll get into the show tonight. So the first thing we're going to talk about, guys, is the news and nuggets of the week. The biggest thing that I've seen that's come across the wire here recently was Tua Tagovailoa. He got paid. He got extended 4 years, $212 million contract extension, $167 million guaranteed. Any thoughts, Bob? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like we disrespect him a little bit, right? Like, I mean, he's like, I think the current ADP and redraft or best balls is right about quarterback 15. He finishes quarterback 10. He's in like one of the most innovative offenses in the league with the fastest, most talented array of skill weapons and innovative offense. Michael, I don't know. I think, they're maybe now that there's a little more certainty. I don't know that there ever wasn't. I mean, I don't think this was never going to be, oh, look at Mr. Scampers. Well. I don't think this was, I mean, like if you talk to people who cover the team closely, the outcome of this was never in question. It was how much. Did he get slightly less than the high-end guys? Yeah, I guess so. But in the end, I think, Mike McDaniels has been all in on him all along. And I think to me, that's the key here. As long as Mike McDaniel's there and they keep corralling this array of incredibly fast talent around him, I always make the same joke. There's two things you can't coach in the NFL, size and speed. The Dolphins absolutely have more of speed than anyone else in the league, right? So I think this is a good spot for Tua, and he's maybe going to be a value pick for me in drafts as a quarterback too, if he remains in that range.
Gotcha. Rich, you excited about Tua?
I wouldn't say that I'm excited per se, but I think Bob hit it pretty good. Like we do definitely undervalue him a lot. I think one of the things that I liked the most about this contract is it's going to keep Tyreek Hill relevant, because obviously Tua is able to get him the ball. He makes him relevant on the field, and it allows Miami to see where they're at with Tua once Tyreek Hill leaves, because Tyreek is going to be gone in 2 years, right? Like that was what he said anyways, was he has 2 more years. So a couple more years after that, see what Tua can bring to the table without his top weapon, see if he's able to put anything together, and see if they need to move on or if they're going to make him their franchise quarterback. So I really like the contract overall.
Okay. Well, since you like that contract overall, 12 minutes right after Tua, got his deal, it's kind of like the whole Drake, Kendrick Lamar thing. I mean, here comes Jordan Love, 4-year, $220 million contract, a $75 million signing bonus, just the signing bonus. Rich, you say you were a Viking fan, but I know that you're a closet Packer fan. So how do you feel about Jordan Love getting paid?
Yeah. No, it feels about right. It does. I think that it's a good length and a good cost. I think that they had to pay him, with what he did with the end of last year and whatnot. Little surprised that they did it already, but I get it at the same time. I think the one thing that I question though is whether or not they're going to get him a wide receiver one, because I still don't believe in the wide receivers that they have there. I like the wide receivers that they have there, but I don't think that they have a true wide receiver one yet on the team. So.
Wow. I feel like he got interest a little bit there.
We're going to talk about one of those receivers later in the show, and he's not. You're not wrong, Rich. I mean, there hasn't been a guy that's emerged, but I think there's a couple things here. Jordan Love last season from week 10 on was the top scoring quarterback in fantasy football. He had 153 fantasy points based on the FootballGuys stats. He was like third in points per game behind two guys, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and those guys very good. So like, I like this, and I like the value of him, going around quarterback 10 right now in Dynasty. If I could get a hold of this fellow, here he is locked in. And it's funny because, there was so much consternation when Aaron Rodgers was gone or was leaving. And I always said, like, I don't think these guys that run this show are letting Aaron Rodgers flee the scene unless they think they have like a reasonable replacement on board. And they knew it all along. And you could hear it, a year ago in June when Brian Gutekunst talked about the receiving core. And why didn't you add a big name receiver? He says, because we want this talented young group to build and grow with our talented young quarterback. They have been telling us the truth the whole time. I think this is what you're looking for. And I think right now, this receiving core is like really reasonably priced for the reason that Rich outlines. There is no true number one. So you can get them a little bit cheaper than you might otherwise get them. If you have a hunch on one, I do. Then you can maybe parlay that into a bigger thing if your hunch plays out.
All right. You guys have nailed it on the head. I really don't feel like I need to say much. I'm going to absolve myself from talking about Tua's contract because some people might say that I'm biased or something like that, but I don't know where.
Go ahead. No, say it.
I don't know. Tua got paid. You had to pay the guy because
correct.
For every Dolphin fan that hates Tua, what are you going to do that's better? where the Dolphins finish the season, like with the resources that they have, what can you do? Go out there and do that is better. So anyhow, we're going to move on. But everybody that's in the chat, we love to see everybody. Good to see Jamie, Dame, Mr. Scampers. He's back. Stacy's here. Jorge, Chris B. Bob, you're a very popular person.
I love all these people. Everyone you've mentioned are people that I like, that are my people. Except Scampers. He's my cat. But I have other cats.
And Bob, Willpower.
Oh, yes.
Question for you.
So, I'm if I'm being 100% honest, I'm a little worried. I haven't heard back from him for a couple of weeks. I texted him. He was starting another round of chemo, so I'm not like playing too much onto it. But he was doing super well right up to that point and remaining very positive and upbeat, making long-term plans. He's growing grapes so he can make wine. I don't believe that happens in the short term. I believe that happens in the long term. So we're super optimistic, but hoping to hear back from him really soon. Sometimes the chemo can be a little bit taxing, so I'll keep asking me, and I'll keep you posted as I get more information.
Absolutely appreciate that, Bob. All right, fellas. So now we are going to get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show. We're going to be talking about those targets, and we're going to be talking about sleepers. But up first, we're going to talk about targets. And what better position to start off when you're talking about a target for your dynasty team? So we're going to start with the QB position. And at the QB position, like, who are you actively trying to acquire in your dynasties? Doesn't matter what format or scoring system or anything. Bob, who are you going after?
In every damn format, every league I play in, everywhere I go, even in places where there's no football involved, I'm looking for Anthony Richardson. If he is the nail, I am the hammer. I am hitting that all day long. And I get it. There's totally unproven. There's big questions about whether he can avoid the injuries. I'm hoping he can. I'm hoping the Colts take a little cue from your Miami Dolphins. Maybe put a little investment and energy into helping him learn how to avoid injuries, roll with the blows, as it were. So, but I just think the talent is off the charts. We saw him from 4 games last year. He was top 5 in 2 of those games. I feel like that's the tip of the iceberg for him. And paired up with Shane Steichen, Michael Pittman, some of the other pieces they put in place there. I think the long-term future is super bright for him. If I miss out on him, I'd probably go for the discount version, Jaden Daniels, who I mean, look, he's 6'4", 210. He is not like Anthony Richardson, esque totally. But the playmaking ability is there. I'm hoping Jaden Daniels learns to dial back the willingness to take contact at this level that he was willing to take at LSU. That probably won't serve him well. But it's Anthony Richardson for me all day long.
I love that. Rich, which quarterback are you actively going out to? It doesn't even have to be football, as Bob said so eloquently. What are you going after?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm going after Jared Goff. I like to have somebody that maybe is a little bit underrated compared to most people. I feel like that underratedness, I think people are actually starting to understand the value that he brings to the table now. So I don't think that I'm going to get him at quite the discount that I was able to get him at, last year and so on and so forth. But I do love what he brings to the table. I mean, he's been a QB1 each of the last 2 years, averages 17.4 points per game. He's got great chemistry with with Amon-Ra St. Brown and with Laporta now too. And it's only going to get better from where they're at right now. So as far as what he brings to the table and the price wise, especially because a lot of times, I mean, you said it doesn't matter the format, but I play in a lot of Superflex. Superflex, they're going to cost a little bit more. I want to try to find somebody that's not going to break the bank for me, that I'll be able to continue to compete later on as well. So, yeah, Jared Goff's my guy.
Okay. And Rich, I appreciate you staying true to form and taking everybody in the NFC North.
I knew you were going to say it.
I just appreciate you being true. But so for me, you guys have talked earlier about Tua being a little underappreciated, everything. The guy that I'm going after right now is Brock Purdy. And I really feel that as much love as he got when he came in and he took over and nobody was expecting it and everything he's done since, it's been phenomenal. But I feel like he's not getting the love that he really should deserve. So right now, he was going off the board per Dynasty League football ADP, the QB 16 right now. And last year, you know what he did? He just threw for 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, and he finished as the QB6 last year, but we're still acting like, we're not so sure about him. Let's also look at where his running mates, look where Debo, look where Ayuk, even Ricky Pearsall is getting drafted and everything, but nobody wants to take the guy who's distributing the ball to them. I feel that he will have a sufficient season. He's proven that, he can go out there and he puts the ball where it's supposed to be. Now, I'll give him a little credit. I really feel that it's become a skill because I've seen him throw so many passes that should have been intercepted that just got dropped. And after a certain point, you're like, that's got to be a skill. He's got to be doing that on purpose, right? Throwing those uninterceptable balls. But I just really feel that with that offense, it's going to be potent. Kyle Shanahan is that systematic genius. He's always putting them in the right spots and everything. So I feel that at the price before you can get Brock Purdy and the value that he can put up, I really think that he is going to far surpass a lot of these rookies that everybody are pushing up the board, hoping the world just because they want to live off hope, versus what he's actually done his full year starting in 2023. So Brock Purdy for me. But before we move on,
I just want to say there's something to be said for, the whatever anyone who can get Kyle Shanahan. The key to this is he's the perfect executor of Kyle Shanahan's scheme. And I think there's something to be said for a player tied to that. And I think the price would be way more favorable than it would be for Anthony Richardson at this point in time. So would Jared Goff as well. So, there's something to be said for the price and what you're getting in return for that, for sure. That's
true. Absolutely. Albert has a question. Thoughts on DJ Moore contract extension?
I like it. There was a smart move. Moore has been fantastic. You look over the course of time, he's played with like 12 different quarterbacks. Most of them have been horrible. All of a sudden, he shows up, in the locker room, and here's a generational talent, they tell me, as his new trigger man. And I think this is a great thing. He's under contract through 2029. If you're a Dynasty investor, I'd be out there looking, and I believe we'll talk about that too. DJ Moore is a great pick.
Nice. And I just want to compliment you on being very nice and saying that most of his quarterbacks he's played with have been.
I'm very nice.
Rich, anything to add? What are you thinking about DJ Moore's contract?
I'm happy for him. I really am. He's one of the receivers that I've always liked. And so I was happy that he finally got paid. I'm really, really curious about the three-headed monster that they kind of have there in Chicago and how that's going to play out for fantasy purposes. But I do love the consistency that this is going to mean for Caleb Williams and his development in general. Like Bob was saying, just having that generational talent there. I really want to see what Caleb Williams can do. I don't think that he has any excuses, and so just one more NFC North team that I can give glowing reports about.
I think you're trying to look at the long term, the big picture there. And by the way, those quarterbacks. You think about that. It was like late career Cam Newton, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Will Grier, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield. He had 1,100 receiving yards for 3 straight seasons with those guys, right? So there's something we said there last year, career highs playing with Justin Fields, Tyson Bagent. This guy is the quarterback proof card is in full effect. Now he can just burn it. Doesn't even need
it. Yeah. Let's go. Will's up on DJ Moore. But yeah, Will, I agree with you, man. Brock Purdy to me. You didn't expect that tonight, did you? We're a full service show here on Dynasty 365.
A little preview of the expo and the karaoke that will be coming.
Talk about quarterback, guys. If we're going to go for running back, Bob, who's your running back you're going after this year?
Well, I heard the red zone drills went quite well yesterday in New York. Aaron Rodgers had been a little bit frustrated through camp. I think he scored 6 touchdowns in the red zone drills. 2 of those went to Breece Hall. By the way, 3 to Garrett Wilson. 2 to Breece Hall. Breece Hall is the guy, right? The explosive threat, the ability to take it to the house any given snap. Last year, coming off the ACL was still phenomenal, but you saw that late season run when he got the full workload, was putting massive yard from scrimmage numbers up. And I'm not, whether he's playing with Aaron Rodgers or maybe somebody beyond that, I'm not really worried. This guy, to me, is primed for a lengthy run as a high-end threat.
I agree with all of that. I like that a lot. Rich, who's your running back?
Sure. So again, you're going to see a little bit of a trend here with me and how I like to target guys, but I like to find guys that I think have a lot of high upside and that are being undervalued by a lot of players. Travis Etienne is one of them. I love him. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased because the Jaguars are my second favorite team, but I think what he brings to the table is great. He was an RB2 2 years ago, RB1 last year. Everybody kept telling me the Tank Bigsby was going to take over the backfield back there, or at least put a dent in what he was going to do, and that never happened. And he had no trouble keeping him at bay. Etienne is a 3-down back, and I think that his value is low enough where you're able to get him where it's not going to break the bank again, and you're going to be able to have an RB1 on your team.
Okay, I like that a lot.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Got another question from Spencer. What do you all expect from Mr. Gus Edwards this year?
I think he's in a really good spot. We'll see. Right? He's back to practice. I think just today they had an unspecified off-season procedure, but like Joe Ortiz, the general manager, when they signed him, used the word bell cow. We'll see. They added Dobbins after that, and they've drafted Kamani Vidal. I do think Gus Edwards is first man up, talking to two different beat writers, Gavino Borquez and Joe Reedy, like in the last 2 weeks. Joe Reedy's like totally, it's every down job for Gus Edwards. If they spell him, it'll be J.K. Dobbins. I do think there's a universe in which a healthy J.K. Dobbins takes over that role. We'll see if he can be that healthy guy. But for now, I think Gus Edwards is a super reasonably priced, like a bargain right now for the potential return. You look at that group of backs down there where people are just totally ignoring the potential volume, and because maybe they don't like the offense or whatever. Devin Singletary, I see you and I feel your pain, man. You're on all my rosters for that reason. But Gus Edwards is on a lot of my rosters for that reason. He had 13 touchdowns last year. I think it is 4 years with Greg Roman as his coordinator in Baltimore. He had 13 over that entire span, but he ran for over 5 yards a carry. I think he could be very effective in that offense, and the price is right.
Well said. Like, I couldn't add anything to that. Rich, what about you?
I was just going to say I got nothing that I can really add to that. The only thing that I would maybe counter a little bit is I really love Vidal, and I'm excited for what having him balance with Edwards. I think that he would be a good spell for Gus Edwards, but that's my personal.
Okay, so I've been pressing all the beat writers I talked to. Joe Reedy is like a really even keel guy. So what about Kamani Vidal? I'm all excited. He goes, yeah, it would be great on special teams. I think a lot of these late day 2, day 3 running backs that we see that look, they have potential. If things go their way, they could end up being something. But also, the new kickoff rules, there's a need for special teams players. Running backs are big, fast, and hit, right? And that's like they're perfect special teams players. So we'll see. I mean, he could be more, but I think the expectation going in is he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also heard that he likes a lot of chicken. And Jim Harbaugh thinks chicken is a nervous bird, so he doesn't recommend eating it.
Jim Harbaugh can suck it.
You heard it here first, Jim.
Timestamp.
Yep. All right. So, like at wide receiver, we've talked about DJ Moore already, but like Bob, I know that you're pretty big on DJ Moore this year. Did you have anything else to add about him?
I just think the price is probably right this year. I mean, you look at, and I think it's the not even uncertainty to me, but it's people looking at the situation where there's, Rome Odunze's there, Keenan Allen's there. If I'm investing in Dynasty, I'm hoping to leverage that into a little cheaper price and taking a look at the long-term picture. Love, receivers tied to a quarterback for an extended period of time. We're taking a little leap of faith here with Caleb Williams. I think perfectly reasonable to do that. I think he is actually going to be pretty good. And we'll hope they, the Bears obviously have learned lessons from, we've got to build something around a support system for a young quarterback. They have it. DJ Moore had 550 yards. He was 9th in the NFL in yards after the catch last year. He's a dangerous weapon, and playing with a quarterback like Caleb Williams, I think he'll be just fine. And Keenan Allen's 12th year. He's going to be 12-year veteran. He's going to be gone, right? He's not a permanent fixture there. So, I think I'm just trying to leverage maybe the perception that this is a crowded room and there are issues, and hope to get a little bargain out of it.
So that means Cole Kmet's the guy that you really want.
For sure.
Rich, what wide receiver are you targeting this year?
Sure. So I'm going with somebody that's just outside the top 24 ADP. I'm going with Deebo Samuel. Um, he's three years removed from a top three finish in PPR leagues. Last year, and I hate this word, but if you extrapolate what he did over the time that he missed, he still finished in the top five. Even without that, he was still a wide receiver too. I love what he brings to that 49ers offense. I think he's such a focal point of what Shanahan wants to do there and everything. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get his usage. And given his age, I think a lot of people are down on him a little bit just because, you see that 28 years old, people start to, especially in Dynasty, people start to get a little bit hesitant. But he can still produce, and he's a little bit cheaper than most. So that's somebody that I'm definitely targeting just for price wise and what he can do.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me, especially since I think Brock is going to have a stellar season. But as for me, the wide receiver that I am targeting right now is also like one of the reasons why I went after Brock was just because of his price. But I'm going after Jalen Waddle. And the reason why I'm going after Jalen Waddle is not because I'm a Dolphin fan. I tend to avoid Dolphin players at all costs, just because, it clouds my brain and I'm angry on Sundays watching them.
The emotional investment is too great.
Oh, it's too much. I feel like Hootie. I'm a baby because the Dolphins make me cry. But anyhow, we're talking about Jalen Waddle, right? And the reason why I like Jalen Waddle this year, last year, he was injured like the entire season. He started off in training camp, and then he was battling injuries. He was in and out of the lineups every game. So I'm one of the few people on the planet that watch every Dolphin snap. So I've seen this. He's nicked there. He tried, but he was just really hurt. But even with that injury-plagued year, he had a little downturn, and people really were kind of off of him because of that. But with all that, and yeah, it was his worst year his worst season as a professional. But in his worst season as a professional, he still had 1,014 yards and he had 4 touchdowns in and out the lineup. He is still uber talented, and he is actually healthy right now, and he's already looking good out there. What a lot of people are really high on Devon Achane right now, and I don't really understand why. He is a walking injury designation. He can't stay healthy at all. But that offensive line is going to be worse than it was last year. Robert Hunt is gone. Chris Greer has never been good at building an offensive line for the Miami Dolphins. And Josh McDaniel, as much as he says he likes the run, he abandons the run way too quickly. They were just super efficient with Achane and Mostert last year, which offset those numbers a little bit. This year, they're going to be worse. Their defense, they have all their pass rushers are coming back from season-ending injuries. They're back. Their defensive backs are still trying to make something happen. That defense is not going to be as good as it was last year, which means that Miami is going to be opening up a little more just to stay in game. And Mike McDaniel is going to air that ball out. The offense is going to be way more efficient in the air than it is on the ground because of that inept running game that they're going to have because of that O-line. So because of that, I'm looking at Tyreek Hill. He's getting older, but he is going to get his, and everybody is all on Tyreek because Tyreek has been a supernova the past couple seasons. Who's going to be the guy with all the crossers coming across the field and getting everything underneath? It is going to be Jalen Waddle. And for that, I am all in on him right now. And at his price, I think it's almost fail-proof that he won't deliver on his return on investment unless he has a season-ending injury. And to me, that safety right there just means that's a guy that I'm going to gobble up if people are just going to let him slide.
That is the longest I've ever heard a Dolphins fan say, please come hold me.
I'm so cold. Yes. But that was from an analytical side. That was I didn't have the Dolphin hat on for that one.
For sure.
So moving around the field, guys, we're going to get into tight ends. So your tight end target that you're going after this year. Rich, I'm going to come to you first. Who is your tight end go-to that you're looking at this season?
Sure, I've been scooping up my my tight end one this year everywhere that I can. Every league that I was able to get him in, I did. And as Josh Smokey Nelson says, Kyle Anthony picked. Next question. There's just really not much more to say than that. I love what he's going to bring to the table this year. When when it was rumored, when the Vikings were still trying to bring Cousins back, but it was rumored that he was going to Atlanta. As soon as I heard that rumor was starting up, I started picking up hits where I could, because you know that Cousins is going to pepper him. He loves his tight ends, so yeah, Pitts is going to have a great year. As long as Cousins is actually starting out the season and everything, and he's healthy, coming back from that Achilles, I'm fully in on Pitts.
Okay. Bob, what says you, my friend? Who's your tight end target?
I think that's a good call. That Kirk Cousins, 28% of his passes last year to the tight ends, and along here, Jordan Reed somewhere is going, "That's my guy." So yes, but I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid, who I think was drafted to be what we'll see him be this year, the leading target getter on the Buffalo Bills offense. I mean, I think he's going to be the primary downfield weapon. Remember when they drafted him, they were talking about it's a Travis Kelce-like role. Well, it didn't happen last year. It's in the process. Talk to Ryan O'Halloran from the Buffalo News, who's a really even-keel beat writer there, not prone to hyperbole. And he's talked about it. I've heard it. He's talked about it with me like 3 times over the course of the offseason, and the story has remained the same. That they have huge plans for Kincaid. And I think everyone there will be surprised if Kincaid does not lead the team in targets this year. Now, there's some question, will he be the scoring threat? Because he's more of a seam splitter down the middle of the field kind of guy. Maybe that's why Keon Coleman's there, kind of a boundary play or the corner of the end zone. You know, Josh Allen's there. He will score many touchdowns. But I think Dalton Kincaid being the primary piece of a rebuilt receiving room, don't think of him as a tight end. Think of him as the wide receiver one there, much like you think of Travis Kelce in Kansas City.
Love it. Rich, who's your tight end?
Well, I talked about Kyle Pitts.
We already did. It's your turn,
Kyle
Chris.
Anthony Pitts. Next question.
I don't want to talk about my guy, but so Evan Ingram is who I'm targeting.
Ooh, yeah.
And again, I just feel that even what he did last season, I still feel that he's getting a little bit of disrespect. But what he has going for him going into the 2024 season, Calvin Ridley is gone, so those targets are vacated a little bit. And you really, really hope to see progress from Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence, he also was nicked up a lot last season, Iron Man in it, still playing games, even though he was beat up. So hopefully a healthy Trevor Lawrence will be able to lift that offense up a little bit. Ingram, he had a strong finish last season and 143 targets, 963 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I kind of feel that his touchdown looks, targets in the red zone should go up without the big body Ridley there. Like Kirk, that is just not his bag, to do that. But I expect him to continue to outpace, continue to do what he did or even outpace what he did last season, just because the way that offense is set. The AFC South, the division as a whole, I feel like all those teams have gotten better. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive. And if that is the case, you're going to have to open that offense up a little bit more. And I would love to see Trevor Lawrence take the step that we thought he would take last year. And Evan Ingram will be a major piece if that's going to happen. So we have a question from the chat again. Willpower. He's like, who's going to be the top dog in Chicago's backfield? Bob, who you picking on that one?
I'm picking none of the above, but I mean, it's going to start out DeAndre Swift. They paid him that kind of money to be that guy. 2 other teams have also paid him to be that guy and felt he wasn't, or wasn't reliably that guy. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hopeful and optimistic. I don't think he's overpriced in redraft right now. I think it's, it's fair. I think the fear is built in. I am injury agnostic, so I tend not to think about the health angles of it. I mean, he's had some bad luck with that as well. But you look at he was great last year. 1,049 yards rushing behind the Eagles offensive line. I don't know that it's going to be as easy going behind Chicago's offensive line. He'll have a role in the receiving game, but there's a lot of receivers there, as we talked about. So I'm not 100% sold. He's the guy for me. If I was making if I was playing the waiting game and say I want the cheap option and then what I think might be eventually an ambiguous backfield, Roschon Johnson's the guy. I think Khalil Herbert might end up in Dallas or something silly like that.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Swift will be the guy. who's going to get the, try at least first. The biggest knock on Swift is he just does not want to run the play as it's designed. That is why, the running back coach in Detroit was so furious with him, because instead of him just taking what's there, he's always trying to bounce it to the outside. And you saw that in Philly a lot last year. Like the first couple of games where he wasn't looking so hot is because he wasn't running the play as designed. He was trying to do stuff that he could do back in high school and college. But that offensive line is not Philly's offensive line of last year. So It's very, very interesting to see what's going to happen there. Yep. All right, guys, we've already talked about our targets. So now it's time to get into who our dynasty sleepers are. So we're looking for players who are, not the ones that everybody is talking about, a little bit down the chart on ADP. But if we're looking at quarterbacks, who's your sleeper this year, Bob?
I don't know that he's this is more dynasty long term. I don't know what he's going to be this year. He might be nothing. Might be a redshirt year. But JJ McCarthy will be playing with Justin Jefferson once he's playing in an offense run by Kevin O'Connell, which I think O'Connell went out and got his guy. This was the plan. So we'll see. I mean, maybe Sam Darnold, suddenly turns into a thing. I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. But it's so, and I do expect McCarthy. I don't think it's going to be soon because we haven't seen him take any first team reps yet. I think the quote from O'Connell this week was, well, we need him to get comfortable with the system before we start giving him first team reps. Well, that's a very short window to week one to get comfortable and then win the starting job. So I think this is a middle of the season kind of thing. And that's fine. I'm playing this the long term as a dynasty player. I want him on my roster for the future playing with Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. And just as the resident Viking fan, I'm going to tout this a little bit. The little bit that I heard from O'Connell was talking about how he felt when, and I think I talked about this maybe last week already, but he was talking last week about how when Washington was bringing up, oh, dang it, and I forgot his name again, the quarterback that passed away a couple of years ago from Washington.
Yeah, from Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, when they brought him in, O'Connell was there, and he wasn't ready to start yet. And they threw him in anyways. They threw him into the deep end. And O'Connell does not want to do that again. He was very adamant about not wanting to do that to another quarterback. And so I think JJ is going, whether he wants to or not, even if he does start to catch on right away, I think as long as Darnold isn't terrible, and I don't think that he'll be terrible. I think he'll actually be pretty good with the weapons that he has there. I think that JJ is going to be sitting for a while. But I'm with you, Bob. I'm all about grabbing JJ where I can and just sitting and waiting because I think that he will be good in the end of thing. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So a quarterback that I am trying to acquire just because I think that I can get him in some places is none other than the mayonnaise lover himself, Mr. Will Levis. And the reason why I'm going after Levis, when he came into the league, I wasn't huge on him when he came into the league, but when he got a chance to play last year, the team was in a lot of transition and turmoil. Not a lot was happening, but I think there's been a lot of positive that are going on down in Tennessee right now. So Brian Callahan, he's coming in and he's taking, the helm, and he's already said he vows, to bring the forward pass to Tennessee and do a little different than the ground and pound so much when Derrick Henry was there. And I kind of believe him because if I look at the offensive moves that have been made since he's been there, they're really trying to beef up that offense a little bit. They've added Calvin Ridley. They've added Tyler Boyd. They went and got Tony Pollard early in free agency because they wanted him on the team so much. That offensive line that was absolutely putrid. They've added Lloyd Cushenberry. They also went and got Sadiq Charles. So that should shore up that line a little bit to give him a little more cushion time to throw the ball. His backups in Tennessee really aren't scary. And as I said earlier, I really feel that the AFC South is about to become like a shootout. All those teams have offenses that can actually put up numbers. And if it all comes together, Levis really could actually ascend. But where you're getting him right now in dynasties, because he doesn't have a whole lot of people who are in his corner, you might be able to just sneak him for, a pick and actually see what happens. So I think it's worth the call. I think it's worth the try. And for that, Will Levis is somebody that I would be picking right now.
Yeah, I think Bill Callahan is maybe the most important piece that's coming in. The offensive line coach, Brian's dad, probably the best offensive line coach in football. It has been for quite some time. I think he made a huge difference in Cleveland. He's made a difference everywhere he's been. So this is going to be a big deal.
I agree.
Absolutely. And I got to say real quick, I didn't get to say my piece on my quarterback. So
because you loved mine so much.
I did. I had to jump in right away. But no, I just got to say, Mr. Scampers, I'm right there with you. I love Bryce Young, and I think that he can be good. He is my quarterback, and so just throwing you some love and throwing him some love. He's young. We saw him get picked up by a team last year that wasn't in a position to win by any means. They traded away his number one wide receiver before he even got there to get him. And so, he last year was a struggle. I really think that what they brought in this year, as far as the team building around him, I mean, from the top to the bottom, starting with Dave Canales, bringing in a coach that's going to be able to help him, getting him a wide receiver one with Deontay Johnson, maybe not the best wide receiver one, but a wide receiver one, better than what he had last year with old man Adam Thielen and whatnot. I think that he's going to bounce back this year, and I'm excited in a big way.
Old man slander will not be had here. That's enough of that.
Oh, yeah.
Young. But yeah, I'm wishing the best for Bryce Young because, I mean, I really can't think of anybody outside of Joey Harrington way back when who came into a worse situation. Like he joins, to me, I think it's one of the worst run organizations in professional sports right now. David Tepper is god awful. I gave him more credit than he was worth of deserving, and I just feel so bad for everybody who didn't have a choice in where they start their career and ended up in Carolina. But like you said, Canales, he's done good things. Like I'm gonna call him the QB resurrector, like what he did with Baker Mayfield and what he did with Geno Smith. And if he can actually come there and do something and help Bryce Young reach what a lot of people thought he could be coming out of Alabama, I think that would be a win. And I really wish that for the young fella, just because, I mean, he had a terrible situation coming into. So
I'm going to say this for David Tepper, though. He doesn't have the worst haircut of all the owners in the NFL because Mark Davis exists.
Mark Davis is come full circle. It's so bad that you're like, I mean, that's kind of impressive. So, all right.
I love it.
Running backs, because we're waxing poetic, about Carolina. What do you think about running backs, Bob?
I'll go ahead and go. So, the requirement here was not in the top 24. I went and checked Football Guys' current ADP. He's 25. So I'm going, yay. Jonathan Brooks. I mean, obviously a first round talent, probably if he was fully healthy or not coming off the ACL. Well, second round talent coming off an ACL. So let's go with that. I think everything that Rich said is true. Everything that's happening in Carolina is happening to fix Bryce Young. And the best thing, the most important thing to fix Bryce Young is a strong rushing attack. They shored up the middle of that offensive line with Hunt and Lewis. And I think that was a big deal. The adding of Deontay Johnson, I think, is a big deal. But nothing trumps the addition of Jonathan Brooks. They'll lean heavily into that run game to take some pressure off Bryce Young. I did. Money talks.
Yes, it does. Rich, what running backs are you looking at?
Sure. So I'm going with one that's a little bit hated, I think, right now, and is very undervalued with Najee Harris. I love what Najee brings to the table. I know that last year his yards per carry were not great. I know that he's struggled a little bit, but I also think that he hasn't gotten a lot of help in Pittsburgh very much. And I also think that offensive line was just not what it could be and what it will be this year. I think it's going to pick up a lot. And I think under Arthur Smith, I think he's going to thrive a lot. I really do think that Najee Harris is going to have a much better year. We saw him at the end of the last year, what he could do once they started giving him the ball and actually started giving him some volume. He really started to pick up the pace, and he was a top. He was an RB1, I think, for the last, 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah. I liked what he brought to the table. So
You realize Cordell Patterson's there now.
I know. Believe me. And Arthur Smith is the bane of my existence. But hey, I'm riding.
I'm with you on this one, Rich. Good call.
as a Vikings fan, I love Cordero Patterson. I can't wait to see, and I really hope that as a Scott Fishbowl fan for Scott Fishbowl 14, I really hope Cordero Patterson goes off in the return game.
But nice to see. Who are you guys picking? Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson for Dynasty right now?
I'll take Brooks. I mean, I love Benson. Anytime that number after the 4 and a 40 time is a 3, I'm excited. When it's someone who's 215-ish pounds, I'm even more excited. But I think Brooks is, like the better talent overall.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like Benson, but Brooks was my RB1 going into this season with the rookies, and he's the guy that I'm going on.
Okay. All right. So if we're talking about wide receivers that aren't, per se up there for your dynasty pleasures, what wide receiver are you trying to acquire? Bob, go to you first.
So this is where I'm going to, go out a little off what we talked about in Green Bay. I'm going for Christian Watson because probably I think I can get him on the cheap because people don't like guys who are hurt. Like I get it. I am, as mentioned, injury agnostic, not stupid. I realize this is a chronic injury situation more than it's been chronically injured. And I'm a little more forgiving of guys that, there's a distinction there, right? When someone has the same problem over and over, it's a concern. The scientists say they have fixed the problem. And I'm a big believer in the science. You'll all be happy to hear. I trust my scientists, and I'm hoping they've done this right. If they have, look, here's a guy who is going to be available super late, who we have seen narrow bands, tiny little narrow bands, but some really impressive bands. He's by far the biggest difference maker in this offense if he's on the field, playing with Jordan Love in particular. We saw the run as a rookie, the 7 touchdown stretch over 4 games. We saw signs of it last year. When he's right, he is the best receiver on that team. He might be one of the best receivers in the league when everything is right. So I'll take the chance on that because I think I'm going to get it on the cheap. That's, hey, everybody knows this. I'm old and mean and cheap, and I don't like to pay for things. If I think I can find somebody who can turn into a wide receiver 1, if I can spin some straw into gold, I think I'm all about that. And I think maybe this straw can be spun into some gold if I get it at a cheap enough price.
That's what Dynasty's all about.
It is. That's a really great pick. I heard somebody tell me that Christian Watson was the reason that Trey Lance is in the NFL right now. Way back at San Diego State. But Rich,
49ers would agree.
Rich, what wide receiver are you talking about?
Sure. So I talked about Bryce Young earlier and how excited I was for him getting Deontay Johnson. So Deontay Johnson's my sleeper. I think he's still being undervalued just because he is in Carolina and everybody, we've seen what Carolina did last year and there's a lot of concerns over that. So I think that that's the main reason why he's being slept on. There are some issues with the drop highlights, or low lights, maybe you should say, that we've seen so far this season that he's been dropping a few balls left and right in the in training camp. But I still love what he brings to the table, and I think that he is going to be that wide receiver 1 that Bryce Young needed. And I think he's going to have a good year.
I like that.
He has a superpower. It's separation.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Complete opposite of George Pickens. But but Rich, so you've given us your wide receiver. Like, what tight end are you thinking is going to have a better than expected season?
Sure. So I'm really in on Jelani Woods. I was last year too when he when we were going into the year and then he ended up on IR. And he ended up missing the whole season. But I think that the team did right by him by doing that. I think that it was good that they shut him down and let him get healthy. I mean, Anthony Richardson wasn't playing anyways. Their season wasn't going to be much of anything. I think that it was good that they let him get healthy. And I think that going into this year, he's going to be that tight end that they need. I'm not saying he's going to be, one of the top 5 tight ends this year, but I think that he will be a top tight end. I think that he'll be a tight end 1, and I'm excited to see what he brings.
If he beats out Kylan Granson, for sure.
Oh,
just being a smart ass. I wonder if that. So I know Granson and I think Andrew Ogletree were running ahead of him in the early camp practices. Maybe they're just being cautious. I haven't been investing in Jelani Woods the same as you have. So I was paying a little attention. It was a little worrisome. So we'll see how that plays out.
Is he ahead of Mo Alley Cox? Is Mo Alley Cox still there?
Yeah, man, Mo Alley Cox is a great dude. If you ever talk to him, he's a wonderful person.
I've heard that from a couple people. So.
Yes.
Bob, we're going to ask you about your tight ends, and we'll get you out of here on this one. Like, what tight end are you trying to acquire, on the cheap?
This is a 1-year rental. It's Tyler Conklin, somebody who can get me by. And, like last year, he was second leading receiver on the team, third in targets. I think you look at the wide receiver 2 situation there. We'll see what happens with Mike Williams. We'll see what happens. Maybe Malachi Corley comes on. Maybe somebody emerges playing with Aaron Rodgers. But Conklin, to me, is a guy who has a built-in role. He's been heavily used, heavily targeted, and I think that'll continue. He's totally under the radar guy. Another one I can get cheap. So if I need just a patch, something to get me through it, I missed out on the tight end in this year's draft or whatever. I'll go ahead and take my chance with Conklin.
I love it. And that is another episode of Dynasty 365. Huge thanks to everybody who's supporting us by watching or listening, wherever you choose to listen. Also, a very special thanks to the phenomenal Bob Harris. Bob, please tell the people where they can find you and your amazing content.
Well, they can listen to me later tonight at SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 p.m. I'll be doing the pregame show again this year with Jeff Mans. When the season starts, we'll start doing the NFL radio show on Saturday night. So you'll be sick of me on the SiriusXM for sure. Also, though, Football Guys is my new work home, and so really happy to be there writing my weekly fantasy notebook. They open that up for free, so you can check that out every Monday. And I'm also doing a daily podcast, a news hit, 10 minutes a day, get you caught up to speed, talk a little value, talk some things along with the news. So check that out if you get a chance on the Audible channel where you get your podcast. I would appreciate it. And some YouTube-y stuff, some video stuff coming up soon. I love doing my live streams and my Ask Me Anything chats. Those are coming back. And my On the Hot Seat program, which I've done in the past, where I just bring on a guest and we grill them. That'll be coming back soon as well. So looking forward to all that.
That is awesome. So you guys heard it here. Check him out because Bob is one of the greats. So again, thank you, Bob.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Come back anytime you want to.
Okay.
You can sit here. You can sit in my seat if you want.
I'll hold you. I'll hold you when the Dolphins are struggling.
Yes. I'll try not to cry. But thank you. And thank everyone who is watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. He's at Rich Sickles GBM, the ginger beard man himself, and I'm at Dynasty Deviant. You can also follow us and the rest of the Fantasy and Frames crew at fantasyandframes.com. Subscribe to the YouTube show, our channel, or wherever you consume your podcast. And while you're there, if you would please give us a like, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Tell Rich his beard is great. He loves hearing it. Also, hit that bell so you're notified whenever new content drops. Like all the Fantasy and Frame shows, on Wednesdays, we're Dynasty 365, where we have you for all of your Dynasty needs. Fourth and Frames, they follow us with the redraft content. And after that, it is Shoot the Gap with the IDP content for all you Dynasty heads out there. Tune in on Thursday, where we have our Fantasy Football Weekly and the Draft Show. Again, thank you so much to our viewers, our listeners, and our special guest tonight. And for everybody in the comments, we appreciate you too. So now let's all be like these Olympians and let's go for the goal and win all these Dynasty championships. Good night, everybody.
See you at the Expo, everyone.